Then I'll show you what some of these dried ones look like here. Color's a little more pronounced. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having an awesome day. It is Wednesday, November 8th here in South Georgia. And on today's video, I wanted to give you an update on some warm season crops that we still have going here in our backyard garden. We got a nice little okra trial going on behind me here with 3 different varieties. So we're gonna take a look at those, kind of compare and contrast those. And then over on the other side of the dream garden, we got some fall cowpeas that are producing really well for us. 2 varieties we've never grown before, so we're going to check on those as well. So let's start out with our okra trial. We've got 2 rows here, one row that we planted back in late spring, early summer, and then another row that we planted just a couple months ago. So here we got our dwarf cowhorn okra, which doesn't look very dwarf now, but if you consider how long this has been in the ground, the plants really haven't gotten that tall. If some of these were standing straight up, they might be around 5 foot tall or so. So that's another great thing about this variety. You don't have to worry about it outgrowing you. Now, the pod production did slow down on these a little bit when we had a cool spell a few weeks ago, but now that we're back in the 80s, it is warmed back up. I may have let a few of these pods get too big. We still got lots of good okra on there that we can harvest. These things usually don't get tough until they get about, I don't know, 11 or 12 inches long. And then over here in this row, our second planting of okra, which was done a couple months ago. We've got 2 different varieties. Up here we've got the Ruiz variety that we've grown for several years that we really like, and starting to get some pretty decent pod production in there on those plants. These plants are only about 3 foot tall or so. Starting to see some really good pod production. Then right here we have a variety that a viewer sent us called Uncle Buck's okra, I believe it was called. It's got some beautiful red stalks on it and starting to see some nice pod production on those as well. These pods are mostly green, but they have a little bit of red color on them. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, you know I'm not a real big heirloom guy, but one of the things I really like to grow is heirloom okra and try and compare a bunch of different varieties. So okra is one of those things where I do oftentimes opt for the heirlooms. Here we have the Ruiz okra. Here's that Uncle Buck's okra. Hopefully you can see the red color on that. And then here we have the dwarf cowhorn, which is a little longer. So the dwarf cowhorn definitely stays tender at longer lengths than most any other okra variety I've tried. The ones that are this size, about 7 or 8 inches long, those are always tender. This one right here still feels pretty tender. When they start to get this long, you know, 10, 11, 12 inches long, sometimes they can get tough if it's been really dry outside, which it has here lately. But if you've got good soil moisture, sometimes these will still be tender too. Then we've got our Ruiz okra here. This is our really great tasting okra variety. The plants look a little bit like Clemson spineless, but the pods look a little different than Clemson spineless. Got a little more ridge on the pods than you do with Clemson spineless. And these are usually pretty tender up to about this size right here. I can feel this one getting a little tough. These right here are nice and tender and delicious. So once you get about 6, 7 inches long with these, they can get a little tough. It's a really productive variety, and the pods are nice and thick. So when you cut these, you're getting some nice big pieces of okra. This is a good variety for frying. Then we have the Uncle Buck's here, which is one I've never tried before. Just now starting to get some pods on these, so I've not even tasted these yet. The geometry of the pods looks a lot like the dwarf cowhorn, but I can tell these are not going to stay as tender at longer lengths as the dwarf cowhorn does. This pod right here feels pretty tough. These 2 smaller ones right here feel nice and tender. Always got to do a taste test. Man, love that raw okra crunch. That's a really good okra variety there. Really pretty, really tasty. And hopefully we can get our hands on some more of these seeds. That way we can offer it on our website eventually. So I don't really have anything bad to say about any of these three varieties here. They're all good to me. There are some subtle differences, but I like them all. When I'm looking for a good Okra variety, what I'm looking for is a variety that doesn't get too tall, that doesn't outgrow me, that we can leave in the ground for a while and harvest for a while. Also want a variety where the pods stay tender at relatively longer lengths. That's why I'm not a huge fan of those short, fat Okra varieties. So we'll be harvesting okra right up to our first frost date. Whenever that happens, usually sometime in late November, early December, when that first frost is coming. I won't run the water all night on these and try to save them. We'll just enjoy the okra right now while we have it, and then it'll be done come frost time. We did have somebody on one of our social media pages ask the other day if when okra gets killed by a frost, if they could leave it in the ground and it would come back next year. I don't think it would. I usually take mine down once the frost kills it. And now over here at the pea patch, where we've got pods and more pods. And just a disclaimer before we take a closer look at these peas, I've been really slacking on my pea picking lately. In fact, I've been kind of slacking everywhere out here in the garden. I haven't spent much time out here besides what I spend with you all with the camera on here. I'm way behind. Hopefully I'll get caught up sooner or later. We've just been slammed lately with football practice, and then the whole time change thing hasn't helped either. And speaking of football, I figured I'd take this opportunity and brag on Abram a little bit. I'm a little bit biased, obviously, but he started playing football for the first time this year, finally old enough to play tackle football. And I didn't know how he was going to like it. He hasn't really cared for a lot of other sports he's tried, but he is really, really liking football. I knew he was strong. I didn't realize how strong he was. So he just turned 8, and he's a little over 4.5 foot tall, over 100 pounds, and just strong as a bull out there. So he's been doing really, really good. Our regular season team wasn't that great, but he made the all-star team, so we're playing all-stars now. And he's been doing some tournaments around here, and he's just really loving it. Just great to see his confidence boosted. I'm having a good time going out there watching and kind of teaching him and stuff like that. So although we haven't got to spend as much time in the garden lately, me and him have had some really valuable time lately watching him play football, and that's what really matters. But anyways, back to the peas here. We'll start out with our Calico Cowpeas, aka Ozark Razorback Cowpeas. I don't know if the camera will let you see them, but the wasps are still all over these plants like crazy. Haven't sprayed these since way back when they were tiny little plants, way back before they started putting flowers and pods on. And it seems like those wasps are doing a really good job keeping the bad guys from attacking our peas. We can see a couple pods there that have gotten too dry. Still plenty of green pods on there. Still plenty of fresh peas to get. So this particular variety is a climbing variety. You can see it's made it all the way to the top of that Hortonova trellis that we set for it. Now I think you could probably grow this variety without a trellis as long as you gave it plenty of room on the ground to roam. But giving it something to climb, it's going to conserve a little more space in your garden so the plants don't sprawl out quite as much. Now we've been getting a lot of questions lately from first-time cowpea growers or people that want to try growing cowpeas about pod maturity and when's the best time to pick them. And since we've got several stages present here, I figured it'd be a great time to talk about that. So here we have some green pods, and we don't want to pick them when they're green because they're really hard to shell and the peas haven't really filled out inside of them. Now some people will pick a few of these when they pick the mature peas and snap them and put them in with their peas, call them snaps. But I don't usually pick them at this stage here. You want to wait until they change color a little bit. So on this particular variety, we want to wait until these pods go from green to this kind of pale yellow color here. There's a little bit of purple on there, and each cowpea variety is a little bit different. You'll hear people talk about purple hulls. With those, the pods turn completely purple when the peas are ready. Other varieties turn more of a pale yellow. If you've ever grown zipper peas, the pods just get kind of pale yellow. They don't get purple. This has got a little bit of both, a little bit of purple and a little bit of pale yellow color on them, and we can feel that those peas are nice and filled out inside that pod. And then if you let these pale mature pods just hang out on the plant for a while, the pods will eventually dry out and you'll have some dry peas inside. So a lot of people have been asking us, do you wait and harvest these when they're dry like you would say dry pinto beans or something like that? And you can, but most people are going to pick them at this stage and eat them fresh, or either blanch them and put them in freezer bags. Usually the only reason I let them get this dry is if I'm saving some for seeds. Now I have heard of people harvesting them like this, put them in a pillowcase in the freezer and just rehydrating them when they want to cook them, so you can do that as well. So let's take a closer look at these calico cowpeas here, which are really, really pretty. I'm not going to even bother to shell those green ones there, so we'll set those to the side. These are pretty dang easy to shell when they get to this stage. Let me open up one of these. Don't have any stings on these. Hopefully you can see that beautiful color there. So each pea is a little bit different. They have this kind of light green portion to them, and then this little calico pattern on them as well. Then I'll show you what some of these dried ones look like here. So you can kind of see the difference there. On the drier ones, still got kind of that pale yellow portion of the pea, and then that calico pattern, which gets a little darker the more they dry. Then if we get even closer here, you can see the beautiful coloration on those. Those are the green ones, or the fresh ones. Those are the dried ones. Aren't those pretty? So that was our calico, aka Ozark Razorback Cowpeas, and then right here we have our Chackbay Cowpeas, which came from Cajun Bee over in Louisiana. You can see these are absolutely loaded as well. A lot of these have dried out, but that's okay because I didn't want to save some seeds from these. Still got lots of green ones on there and several that are perfect. So with this Chackbay variety, the pods are going to start out green like most cowpeas do, and then these turn a little bit more purple than those calico peas do when they're ready to pick for fresh eating. Now, I don't know that I'd call it a purple hull, because purple hulls a lot of times are dark purple over the entire pod of the pea. These are about half purple, still a little bit of pale yellow on them. So more purple than the calicos, but not as purple as I've seen. And then when they're dry, they look just like the calicos. Now these Chackbay peas are a little bit smaller compared to the calico, but I can tell you they are absolutely delicious. So that's what they look like. Fresh, ready to go in a pot with some smoked pork. And then that's what they look like dried up, ready to use for seeds next year. So I couldn't be happier with how these two fall cowpea grow outs have gone. My original plan was to put some of these for each variety in the freezer, but we were cleaning out the freezer the other day. Still got some peas in there from previous years that we need to eat. So I probably won't freeze any of these. We'll just enjoy some of them fresh and then let the rest of them dry out. That way they can be used as seed. Now, one more thing about these two varieties, in addition to being really productive and tasting great, these are really drought tolerant. Now, most cowpeas are, but these right here have been pretty much neglected. I've been focusing most of my watering efforts on the raised bed garden and our fall garden plot with our cabbage and Brussels sprouts. Haven't really given these much water at all over the last month or so, but you can see they look just fine, still thriving, still putting on a ton of peas. And the fact that we haven't sprayed these in a long time, and the fact that we've got wasps everywhere, tells me that the beneficial insects are really helping us out. Now, I know we've got a strong wasp population down here because we get them under the barn bad during the summer. Sometimes they'll get in places that you don't want them to get, and you reach underneath something and next thing you know, you're getting attacked. But those wasps can be good, it appears, by keeping all the bugs off these peas right here. So I think from now on, when I grow cowpeas in the fall, I'm just gonna cross my fingers and not spray them and hope that the wasps come along and do their thing. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I almost forgot to mention, by the time this video airs, we should have some of those Chackbay Cowpea seeds on our website. Not many, but we should have some there. We'll also have some of those dwarf cowhorn okra seeds restocked as well, so you can go grab those at lazydogfarm.com before they're gone. If you want to see how we planted these 2 rows of cowpeas and hear more about these heirloom varieties, check out this video right here that we did several months ago when we got these 2 rows going. Make sure you watch that, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.